We live in some crazy times right now, y'all, and if stuff hits the fan, you know what I mean, or the grid goes down, or whatever the case may be, what is the one type of food that you think that you can store easily and without relying on anything that is connected to electricity? Well, I'm about to share that superfood with y'all today. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, I teach you all about real whole grains, all from a biblical perspective. I teach you how and why to be storing and milling grains, baking that bread, and more. Okay, so fun video today, because we get to be talking about when the grid goes down, and unfortunately it is when, not if, hopefully a long time from now. But bottom line is, I think many people are very concerned right now with what if things happen. You know, maybe we're attacked by a foreign country, maybe an EMP happens, maybe, you know, hackers come in and hack our system. I mean, who knows, y'all, okay? Who knows? We live in crazy times right now. And also, if you're a Bible believer, you know that, we've kind of read the end of the story. It's gonna get bad. At some point in time. So either way, we want to be prepared. And one of the biggest ways of preparing is, of course, food. What happens if we can't go to grocery stores? All of those things. And do know the little disasters are going to happen in your life, whether it be, hurricanes. Native Floridian here, y'all, and I'm currently living in Florida. That's my home. That's where I live, and we know all about hurricanes, and then we can't go to certain things for a few days or maybe up to a week. Or maybe you live up north where you have those snowstorms. So we have these little mini disasters, or we have the big one that many preppers are looking at when everything just goes downhill. And I know that there is so much discussion out there about what foods you should have on hand, how much you should have, canning, freeze drying, preserving, all of those things. But y'all, I'm here to tell you that there is one superfood that no one talks about that you should be storing, every single one of y'all. And that superfood is grains. And by grains, I mean like wheat berries, quinoa, millet, corn, rye, and even all the variety of our beans. And there are so many important reasons for that, y'all, okay? I don't know why no one talks about this. Like, everyone thinks about, oh, I need to can things, I need to have a vegetable garden, maybe I need to hunt and can said meat, or like freezing all of the meat. And there ain't nothing wrong with that, y'all. I'm not gonna knock y'all one bit. We're growing a garden ourselves. We live out in the country. We like to be as self-sufficient as possible. I'm not knocking that at all, but I'm saying that there's just something in the prepper world that is seriously lacking, and that is this blind spot when it comes to real whole grains and the importance of you having them in your prepper pantry. So I'm going to share with y'all why. But before I share with y'all why, let me tell you a little story about us. So several years ago, I think whenever Obama was about to be elected to his second term, my husband and I, we are new homesteaders, and there was a local secret type prepping group, the prepper group, that we decided to join. Some of our neighbors knew about it, and they were part of it, and we're like, yeah, because we're pretty sure at any moment now, stuff is going to hit the fan. And boy, did we think things were crazy back then. Oh, geez. And so we joined this prepper group, and they had all of these amazing ideas, like gardening and all of these things and storing food. And we're like, yeah, let's talk about storing food. And part of, I think, again, I'm trying to remember, part of the membership was bringing a certain amount of food to be stored with the group, which again, I'm not knocking this. It's a great idea, totally great idea to help your community out and things like that. But one thing that I noticed when I got there is people okay, we need canned goods. We're learning canning, which is great. We're going to learn garden. And then, you know what? You can just donate 50-pound bags of white rice. And y'all, I was milling my grains for several years by then. And I just looked at this white rice. Okay. And I kind of voiced my concerns all right, white rice can certainly, last for a very long time being stored, except we're all going to be so nutrient deficient if all that we're eating is white rice. We'll have the calories, but we're going to not be healthy. We're not going to be we're not really going to be thriving here. And that's very much when I realized there's just this big gaping hole with this. And that's why I'm sharing this with y'all today. So maybe if you are prepper groups, you need to listen up, because you don't need to just store bags of white rice. They are so nutrient deficient. Again, they might fill your bellies, but some people may not be able to handle white rice. It has no bran, no germs, so many B vitamins. Like they're just gone. It lasts longer on the shelf, but it's not really going to do you much good as far as thriving and keeping you healthy. Okay, so why are real whole grains the way to go? And it's mainly because for a few reasons. One is they are nutrient-dense superfoods. Wheat berries are king. They contain 40 out of 44 essential nutrients that you need. And if you pair that up with beans, then you've got everything that you need. So I do recommend that. The two superfoods the most are wheat berries, and this can be any sort of wheat berries with ancient grains, heritage grains, even our modern grains. The point is that you need the wheat berries and the ability to mill it yourself, or you can soak the grains and eat them wheat berries, it's fine. But you know, grain mills, milling bread, and baking bread like they've been doing for thousands of years. And then of course beans, and beans can be like whatever beans that you want. Pinto beans, kidney beans, black beans, great northern beans, whatever. Dried beans store a very long time. And the beauty of this is wheat berries and your dried beans, they store so easily. You just need to make sure you have a good container with a good lid that's going to keep out bugs and moisture, and those bad boys will last a long time without losing the nutrients. And on top of that, real whole grains is going to give you the fiber that you need, because trust me, y'all, you do not want any digestive issues when stuff goes down. That would be no bueno. The other thing that you need to realize is that grains have been sustaining humanity for thousands of years. You know, with agricultural, people knew, humans knew that they could grow these grains and they could store them well, and it would get them through the winter, get them through years. We see this story in the Bible, the story of Joseph, whenever there were 7 years of plenty in ancient Egypt, and then there were 7 years of famine. So during the 7 years of plenty, they then stored up all of these grains, and then they were able to feed the known world at that time for 7 years of hardcore famine with grains. And even though, and you need to read the story of Joseph, because even in the story of Joseph, they clearly had some food. It mentions honey and nuts or dates, I believe, those type of things. And they actually said, bring it to, as a present to Joseph. Again, you got to read the story in the book of Genesis. So they actually had food, but they specifically stated that unless we get grains, we are going to die. They had cattle, they had all of those things, but they knew that if they did not have grains, that they were going to die. That is how important grains are, especially in a famine. When things hit the fan, that's what you need. And human beings have known this for thousands of years, which is why we've stored them for thousands of years, why we've grown them for thousands of years, and modern society has just completely forgotten about it, and we think that we're going to be just fine on white rice. We ain't, okay? We ain't. You need real whole grains. Now, the key to this, y'all, is this is whole grains, not flour. The flour is going to go bad. Don't you go, like I even saw people go out and they would get like white flour, store them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. But again, that's dead flour. It's not real. It's going to give you calories, but it's not going to give you the nutrient dense food that is going to keep you thriving and alive and healthy in a time that you may not have access to the hospital, and you're now like having to cut down trees by hand to build whatever shelter that you may need. I mean, we're talking like major grid down scenario, but you may need to do that, and you're going to want to be able to have the energy and the health to do that. Now, the third thing, that the beauty of grains is that it's so easy to prepare and super stupid easy to store. As far as storing, again, what I said, wheat berries or any sort of real whole grains, and you need to just good container, good lid, to keep out moisture and pests. That's it. There's no canning. You do not need any electricity whatsoever. I keep my grains out in the shed, and I'm here in Florida, y'all, where there's high humidity, the center of the sun, heat in the summertime, and my grains are just fine. They do not get wet. They have no pests, and therefore they retain their nutrients, and they're going to be just as nutrient dense today as they will be 15 years from now. And it's so easy to actually prepare them for good food. First of all, they taste amazing, but they're very easy to prepare. Beans can be soaked overnight and then cooked over a fire just fine. Wheat berries, also the same, or any sort of grains. Grains overall, real whole grains, I mean, they're seeds. They can, just like dried beans, they can be soaked and they can be cooked in just boiling water over a fire. Or go ahead and prep in advance and get you things like a manual grain mill or some sort of grain mill where then you can grind these grains like wheat berries and therefore make your own bread. So whenever you have milled flour, and people still to this day do this by hand, okay? You can do it, trust me. But with that, you can just make something simple like Johnny cakes. Just mix some flour with some water, think like pancake style, and cook it over a fire. It's very, very simple, but you have a nutrient dense food that is prepared very easily. And again, there's no lots of canning, there's no electricity needed, nothing like that. I'm telling you, y'all, if you don't have real whole grains in your prepper pantry, you are seriously lacking in a powerhouse superfood that is also cheap to do for your prepper pantry. So that's it, y'all. That's the reason, hopefully I have convinced you to be storing whole grains. Now you should already be currently milling your grains, baking your bread, consuming whole grains now. But if you want further information about storing grains, that was last week's video. I'll link this up here for you to give you a bit more further detail about storing grains, especially those few exceptions with your whole grains, because there are some things that you need to know. So as always, comment below if you've got any ideas, anything else you'd like to input. And as always, I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.